The show is an exhibition titled India Modern, and as the name suggests, it brings to us the best of Indian modernists and also a narrative of the 20th century modern Indian art. And the exhibition is very special because we have close to 57 works by 41 artists and works which we may have never seen before, and the fact that they're all originals. And the exhibition goes beyond an exhibition. For the Delhi Art Gallery brings an outreach program which takes students, lovers of art, common people closer to the artists as well as the techniques of art. And we're very happy to have Yamini Telkar with us, who's an art historian, a painter, and has been associated with the history of art for as long as she can remember. And she is here to take us through the exhibition, its many nuances, its various dimensions, bringing us closer to not only the works, but the many aspects of artists which we may have only read about but not known. And welcome to Punjab Lalit Kala Academy, Yamini.
Thank you very much.
So tell us a little about the premise of the exhibition A, and also why Chandigarh, a small city like Chandigarh, and the Delhi Art Gallery.
Okay. Why Chandigarh? And it's a question that comes up very often. Or for instance, whenever we do an exhibition in a city that's not your main cities like Delhi or Mumbai, the whole idea for DAG Modern or Delhi Art Gallery is that to build awareness, to spread the knowledge of Indian art as it exists since the 20th century to a wider audience. And we can't just do that by having the exhibitions in Delhi or in Mumbai.
True.
But you need to reach out to the people. It's the case of the mountain moving towards the audience rather than the other way around. Also, the aspirations through this exhibition is to, like you pointed out, to open up the nuances of what does it mean to use the word modern art in India.
In India, yes.
Because more often than not, you just get stuck with a few names or a few moments, and you kind of negate what predates it or how did it arrive at that particular moment. And DAG has a very strong collection of works that practically encompass the entire art movement as it was taking place, as it was evolving, whether it's works from Bengal, from North India, from the South, which is not as well represented, or sculpture. That's another form that we tend to overlook when we talk about modern Indian art. It's largely paintings.
Yes.
Because there hasn't been a very solid platform to show sculptures, or we don't have it in this show, but printmaking, how that kind of played an important role in the entire evolution of art practice in India. So to put in a nutshell, which is very difficult because the extent of work that DAG does, we believe that it is our responsibility to function like an institution.
Okay.
Because there aren't many institutions which are doing what needs to be done, which is educating, school children, even art students, people who are interested in art, to spread the word out to a larger audience. And the way we do it is, one, by taking exhibitions to different cities.
Okay.
And the most important part which we've been now on, doing is the exhibition catalogs, or it's not even fair to call them catalogs because these are books. They're extremely well researched. We have various scholars who contribute. We have an in-house team. Kishore Singh is the head of our exhibitions and publications team. In fact, he's the one who's curated the show. And every exhibition is accompanied by a book, wherein we give the context. To give an example, when we say modern art in India, it's well documented, it's well researched, there are essays, the images are fantastic. These are like volumes that will help anybody to pick it up, read,
And understand.
and understand it.
Okay.
That's the second way of doing it. Also, what we do is, when we say outreach, we have outreach programs in terms of talks, walkthroughs.
Okay.
The walkthroughs especially are very interesting, and it's something that not many people are aware of. When we do the walkthroughs, it's for school children,
Okay.
where there's somebody who interprets the works for them. And sometimes we do fun things for them, like make a card, make a postcard, what do you think about it? So it's not very like art history, but it's just to kind of break the barriers. Because I feel the biggest challenge that we as a gallery face is that how do you get people into the gallery?
Absolutely.
Which is such a pity, because here you have like possibly the widest range of artworks of different artists, available. For instance, in the exhibition, we have a very early Paritosh Sen, which nobody will recognize as a Paritosh Sen. Or to look at an artist like Eric Bowen, you don't know where did he come from.
Right.
So these are the little gems which are hidden in the show, but to get people in is a challenge. So hence we said, okay, let's start at the very basic, which is like if we sensitize or if we make the school children feel that it's okay to walk in, it's okay to ask questions, and it's a fun place to be. When they grow up, you will have an audience that's, I wouldn't say educated, but at least they're open.
And appreciated, maybe.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's one thing. And also in terms of, reaching out to the differently abled. We run a program that's called Abhas, where we have, we've developed tactile aids for the visually impaired.
Okay.
So we pick up certain artworks which lend themselves, to be a tactile.
Okay, naturally they lend themselves.
Naturally. For instance, Yamini Roy.
Okay.
You've got outlines and you've got the detailing on it. Jyoti Bhatt.
Okay.
Raza. So what happens is that you can actually feel the work.
Okay.
The various textures that it could have. What do you mean by a line? What do you mean by a rough texture? And
it's so distinct.
It's extremely. I mean, you should come back again. There is something that we're doing on the 26th over here, and you will see what it means. And the joy on the children's faces is
almost
just
seeing the work.
Not only that, in one of the India Art Fair, when we put them up, we put a sign saying "Please touch," and also in Braille.
Okay.
So one little kid walks up to us and says, "Don't you think that the do not has dropped off from your board?" We said, "Please touch." Usually they say, "Please do not touch." They do not has fallen off. We said, "No, my dear, we want you to touch." Despite putting that up, the number of people who actually touch it are so few.
Yes.
And when they do, and when they see somebody else is touching, they still come and recheck. You think it's okay for us to touch? So you need to break these barriers, saying that it's okay to engage in it. Sometimes we make it very serious, but I think if we kind of make it accessible.
True.
I think that's the
most important
thing, and I think that's what we strive to do.
Right.
Make art accessible.
Right.
Take it out to different cities. Put out books. Do various programs that we can to generate an awareness.
Okay.
Because I think today what we need is an audience who can come in.
And who's not scared or embarrassed or, can I walk into a gallery?
Yes.
Can I understand an artwork? Would I know what it is? there's so many questions in people's mind, like classical
or even
music.
asking a question, they hesitate, oh, it may be a stupid question. I said, it's not a stupid question. Please ask, how will you know?
Yes.
And sometimes we forget that because,
because you've been in the...
that field, we're in that thing. You just sometimes lose context, like maybe it's not that obvious. For instance, a little thing on the caption says, signed and dated in English, verso. So somebody said, what is this verso? It made me realize, like, oh my God. I mean, it's so technical, it's simple, you imagine people would know. He said, oh, should we just like sign back of the work and leave it at that?
Right.
But then we get caught up in conventions saying that no, this is the right way to do it. But sometimes it's okay not to do the right thing, just so that the person who's reading it
immediately understands or connects
and doesn't get put off.
Right.
That's the whole idea of why Chandigarh.
Right.
What's the idea of doing shows like this?
Right.
And why modern also? Because sometimes what happens is when you say modern, like when I said, I mentioned that it's just a particular group.
हाँ, we always think progressive है, ये progressive artists हैं.
Absolutely.
Right. We never think beyond it. Like you mentioned Bengal and South. South is something that never comes to.
In fact, the first group of artists who came together with the idea of forming a group that was progressive, it was a Calcutta group in the year 1943.
Okay.
And it had artists like Paritosh Sen, Pradosh Das Gupta, Nirod Muzumdar, the 8 artists who came together and said that times are changing. We need to align ourselves as artists of the universe and not be bound by the boundaries of the whole idea of a nation. Nation still was, there's a whole lot of nationalism and the other turmoil that was going. And this was in context to what was happening in Bengal, which we easily associate saying that the revivalist school. You know what Abanindranath Tagore was doing. They were responding or they were reacting against it, saying that yes, that was fine. But we live in a different time and this is what we need to do. And they had done a show in collaboration with the Bombay Progressives group.
This was in 1943 sometime.
The collaborative show happened in 1947-48.
Okay, interesting.
Then in Chennai, you had another group which was called names. But
so different parts of the country,
different groups of the country had different groups
almost at the same time.
Same time, because you see, that's the thing. Art is a response to the times that you're living in.
We're living in, absolutely.
Yeah. So it is bound to happen that the different sparks happening at different times around the same area, responding to it.
Yes.
That's what they want to do and that's what their whole belief is. But when you look at it retrospectively, what happens is that some of them get picked up and you keep talking about
those 10, 12,
yeah. And the others kind of get lost in history, or they're just not well documented.
Okay.
And the strange part is that the progressive artist group kind of fizzled out in another 3 years. By 1950, 1951, the Calcutta Progressive Group was active from 1943 to 1953.
Wow. Interesting.
So these are the little stories that we talk about. Also, what do we understand by the word modernism?
Modern or India modern.
What do you mean by that?
Absolutely.
Because if you look at it in pure art history, modernism refers to a moment in Europe in the year about 1850.
The French Revolution.
Post the French Revolution, where it was a reaction to what was happening in the past, and they wanted to be current, and they wanted to create a new language.
Fine.
And there it evolves.
That's how we understand it.
That's how we understand it.
Right.
And anybody who looks at saying, modernism in India, it's so late. How can this be modern? But that's again changing. And world over art historians are now cognizant of the fact that modernism is a response to the social change, the modernity or the modernization that was happening in the life of man.
Right.
So if industrialization comes to India at a later date, our responses
will be at that time.
Naturally.
Okay, I get your point.
That's how it's not a static thing. It's ever shifting. Like in South America, it happened at a different point.
Absolutely.
It could have happened at a different point in Thailand. So we have to be aware of that fact. Also, if we just take that one single line, that it's a reaction against what was the styles of the past, then Raja Ravi Verma is your first modernist.
Yes.
He did paintings on oil on canvas in an academic realistic style.
Absolutely.
Which was in direct contrast or revolt to the miniature painting, because that's what was going on.
Yes.
So he becomes your first modernist. Or when you have Amrita Shergill who comes in, who says that no, this is not what the correct thing is, because there was a whole lot of artists in the Bombay presidency who were painting in that style. You have M.V. Dhurandhar, you have Pitawala. That was the style of work that was going on.
Okay.
So then she becomes a modernist because she aligns to what was happening in Europe, given that her background, her training, and how she looks at India in a very different manner, which is again in opposition to what was happening with the Bengal revivalists. which is Abanindranath Tagore, E.B. Havell, Nandalal Bose, where they look at the miniature tradition because they feel that what is happening in terms of the popular paintings, which was Raja Ravi Verma or what even Amrita Shergill was doing, that was not true to the Indian tradition.
Right.
It was in response to what was happening
in Europe.
No, it was in response to the freedom struggle. The quest to find an identity, the quest to find your heritage and to revive your heritage.
Right.
And that's where looking back to the miniatures, looking back at Indian literary sources to create works that they felt resonated with what is India. See, also at this point, this question of what is India, you know, what is my cultural identity, was so strong and dominant in artists' mind, directly, indirectly. This is what they were all trying to portray.
Right, because they were surrounded by it.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Completely surrounded by it. And then you have all these art schools that are coming up. You have the art school in Lahore, you have the art school which was founded in Bombay, the JD School of Art, Calcutta, Madras, where now you suddenly have this trained group of artists, and that's where the Calcutta group comes from. That's where also becomes the hub for the progressive artist group, like artists like Bakre, you know, Raza. They studied there, though not Hussain and not Ara, but the core members were
come from these schools.
Or even in Madras, they were studying at the Madras College of Art, and where they were trying to find their own identity. Or even what happens in Shantiniketan.
Right.
That's so distinct from what was the big, you know, when Nandalal Bose, though he began his career, or when he initially did these fabulous works which were in the wash technique, when he started teaching, he was very aware of the fact that he says, you will not paint like me, you will find your own language. And the students that he trained, you know, like D.P. Roy Chaudhary, Ramkinkar Baid, phenomenal works. You know, the sculpture of Ramkinkar Baid, I don't think anybody understood it then or even understands it now. Can you imagine like working in cement, in direct method, and creating works which was so powerful? And the mill call, which is the most, you know, famous work of his, where you see this family rushing out to work. That I think that's so revolutionary to do something like that.
Right.
And to create a work which comes directly from, you know, your understanding of the life around you. It captures the change in the life of people.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. So when we see these works, we also see the history of our own.
Exactly. And you know, the show is laid out in a very simple manner. It's very linear. If you walk through, it starts with your the Bengal revivalist.
Okay. So before that, tell us. Kishore is not here, so you have to answer their questions. How were the works chosen, if I may put it like that, for this exhibition? What was the premise when you chose these 57 works for India Modern in Chandigarh?
I mean, the title itself becomes your basis. When you say India Modern, the question is, where does it start?
Exactly.
So like I said, you know, it really begins with, you can say with Raja Ravi Verma, Amrita Shergill. It starts with what the revivalists did. So these, what Kishore, we always have this discussion, though these were individual personalities or even movements, they by and large fall under the umbrella of what answers the question of what is modernism.
Right.
And hence you will see that we have works by Sunyani Devi,
okay,
Prasanto Roy, Nandalal Bose.
Okay.
That's where your seeds of modernism really take place.
Okay.
And the show really tries to, open out as in detail and variation and tangents the whole concept of modern.
Okay.
Modernism in art.
In art.
Where you will not see, it's not about uniformity. It's not, there is no, no ideology or no
subject,
style
theme
or subject that ties it together, apart from the fact that the artist's desire to create works that were truly reflective of the times that he lived in, the belief in the vision or the message or the idea that the artist had to convey or to communicate.
Okay.
That's it. Because if you say, if you look at the works, you'll see like, oh my God, it's like starts with these, works which are in wash technique and small format, and then you suddenly take us through works which are, which are so different, and people tend to use the word modern. This is so modern.
Yeah.
When you don't understand anything,
no, it's modern art. It's modern art.
It's modern art. Let's leave away, which is fine.
Yes.
But what you need to understand is, don't confuse the words between. Yes, we all live in modern times. You're very modern as a person, the way you dress, the way you live. But modernism, or
Right.
modern art,
Two different
things altogether.
Yes.
Modern art in India also happened at a particular moment. It happened variously, but what we are doing today is completely different. That's more contemporary. And the show documents these various moments of the modern, or what sparked the artist to do something different. For instance, somebody may say that how is a work by Sohan Kadri
Yes.
Considered to be modern?
Right.
Because that was a different voice.
Completely different.
Completely different voice, where you had this was in the 60s, where you had a whole group of artists who were trying to find the voice again of what does it mean to be a painter in India. Because in the 60s what had happened is, you had the progressive, who proclaimed themselves to be progressives and modern, and they had their moment of glory and their struggle, and a whole lot of them had left the country.
Okay.
Almost 50% of the progressives had left.
Okay.
Raza had left, Bakri had left. We had Padamsi also, who had gone away at that particular point in time, because there was a disillusionment. But the artists who stayed back,
Okay.
they were like, what is it that we are doing? We don't want to do what happened pre-independence, or we don't want to go back to just to a sentimental, romanticized
Yes.
idea of India.
Yes.
We don't want to ride on the universal artist bandwagon, because what does that mean?
Okay.
Imagine the time is 1960. It's about
Yes.
2 decades into independence,
Freedom, yeah.
where the set of questions were completely different. The struggles were completely different. The political scenario was completely different.
Yes.
The patronage was different.
Yes. And it's a new nation.
It's a new nation, a young nation, and
Yes.
these are young artists who are questioning again.
Right.
And there, a very interesting turn takes place. The turn to Tantra,
Yeah. Which Kadri represents.
which Kadri represents, which you have Prafulla Mohanty,
Yes.
Birende.
Okay.
You have Sohan Kadri to completely different
Yes.
accents or aspects of it. That kind of opened up a channel, like the book by Ajit Mukherjee, which had come out, which spoke about what is Tantra and what is Tantra art. It kind of was a simultaneous, churning that was going on. What Swaminathan was talking about,
right.
saying that you have to look at yourselves, or you have to look at within you and your roots.
Right.
Where he began with these works, which were which are now identified as his tribal form,
Right.
which
Right.
he had started doing
Yes.
it early before he moved on to his more famous and popular mountain
Yes.
bird series. And then again towards the end of life, interesting, he went back. I mean, we know it as the end of his life, but by late 80s, he was turning towards a tribal form all over again.
All over again. Yes.
It was a cyclical thing for him, but it was also cyclical for the other artists who were there. That again is something that's in response to this change, or not even a change, but a response to questioning. I think the most important thing, that the takeaway that I would say from this exhibition, or while it was being curated by Kishore, was that what was that moment of questioning? Where did that questioning start, or what becomes the most iconic for that particular artist? And that's where the works get identified.
Okay.
Like, why would you take an atypical Paritosh Sen?
Exactly.
Why would
Yes.
you take something of, why a Sunyani Devi? Why a sculpture? Because Parul, there's just so much that is there that needs to be spoken about
Right.
and discussed, that you can't do it all together. And
No.
that's why you find
represented.
at the same time, it can't be so academic, and it can't be so different that people don't associate it with it.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
I would say the show is a fair balance between presenting something that's identifiable. You have, of course, you have to have the masters. You can't do away without Ram Kumar. They are your pillars.
Yes.
There's no questioning about that. You can't do away without a Hussain or a Souza. They become your comfort factor.
That's a nice word.
It's a
Yes.
comforting. Acha, haan,
These
ye modern
are there.
hai. Acha, ye modern hai. Then I hope that when they come back the second time around, there's a questioning. Acha, but why this work? How does this fit? Hopefully there will be some trigger point, some
Okay.
questioning.
Like a different Krishan Khanna we see here.
Yes, exactly.
From what,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're stunned to see, oh really, this is him?
And that's the reaction that is required. And then if you compare the Parul Sen with the Krishan Khanna, you say, oh my God.
Okay, that I wouldn't know. That I'll depend on you to explain.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, is that how it would have happened? Or is that, and then you see the journey.
Yes. So it's when you say 20th century narratives, so
Yes.
these are the narratives that
Yes.
it is not just about paintings, but
No.
these are narratives of
Yes.
internal, external, and
Everything. And I think the more you will look at it,
yes,
the more it talks back to you. And it really does.
Yes.
And it helps you kind of understand the work within that particular section, or you want to come back and
relook at it.
relook at it in a different
Yeah.
perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we talk of Indian modern, if you could share with us a few insights into the style of some of the artists that you really think represent what you're talking about, and also were there some artists who did completely different mediums in these paintings? Was there a lot of experimentation?
See, there was, in terms of style, I mean, they're so disparate. It's, you just
That's
walk
why
around.
we've chosen them like
Yes,
this.
and that's why they're there, because they really show you the disparateness of various styles which were there. Whether it's, to begin with, let's take the abstracts of Ram Kumar.
Okay.
Even within the abstraction, there's Ram Kumar, and then there's Sohan Kadri, which are so different.
Yes.
There is Raza, which is again a different aspect. Even within, if you say, okay, though he never liked being called an artist inspired by Tantra, he had different philosophy. But loosely, you would say that the, how should I say, the translations of a particular influence can lead to different styles.
Right.
If you say figurative, you can look at Sunil Das, and you can look at Bikash Bhattacharjee. You can look at, I would say, Rabin Mondal.
Okay.
They all are figurative. They all are talking about the struggles of man, but the language is so different.
I get it.
Or if you look at sculpture,
Okay.
We have Pradosh Dasgupta, where it is about form, it's about volume, it's large and it's right there. And then you have Shankho Chaudhary, who's like absolutely about the subtle, the delicate, the you feel like it's going to fly away from there, it's not going to be there. And then you have Himacha, terracotta.
Okay, yes.
So the whole idea is to juxtapose works, to recontextualize works, and to bring in as much as you can and create this turmoil within the viewer and say, okay, what does it mean?
What is it?
Yeah.
And what else has this artist done?
Yes.
I want to see more of him or her.
Yes.
Coming to her, talk to us a little about the women artists of that.
Yeah. We have Gogi Saroj Pal's work in this exhibition, and I think her voice was her life itself is very phenomenal. She chose to come from a small town like Meerut, lived in Delhi, lived in an older part of Delhi, and how she managed to, find her way around the city.
Was it difficult for women artists at that time to find a place?
In a way, yes, because it was.
Was it still, the art world was male dominated?
It continues to be. Because the very fact that we need to talk about it as a women artist is self-explanatory, that even today we do think about it as women artists as something that is different.
Yeah, that okay, you want to know who are the women artists in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that itself says that, of course, that continues to exist, and it's not something that's unique to India, it's world over.
Absolutely.
It's the same struggle which exists. So in terms of course, the very strong contributions like Sunyani Devi,
which we have here.
Which we have
Which
here.
we have
a phenomenal work of hers in the exhibition. We have Gogi Saroj Pal, we have Devyani Krishna.
Yes.
A very beautiful early 60s work, 1960s work of hers, which is included in the show. So that is always a conscious effort to make sure that we have all the voices, we have all the forms, we have all the styles kind of included in the show to make it as balanced as possible.
Okay. And how would you tell us a little about the walkthrough that you're going to do with us and the viewers? And what are the aspects that you would also like us to see through this exhibition when you take us?
Frankly speaking, when I do a walkthrough, within the first 3 minutes, I get a sense of what is it that the group wants to know.
Okay.
Then I pick up my works, I do it extempore. I pick up the works which I feel are iconic and which kind of, encapsulate the entire section, because the show is laid out in a very linear historical manner.
Okay. So starting
from the early Bengal revivalist school works, then we move on to the Calcutta group, what the Calcutta artists did, to the the progressive artist group, the peripherals of the progressive artist groups, the different experimentations that happened in the 60s with works of Swaminathan, Eric Pavan, P.K. Raj, Sohan Kadri.
Right.
Sculptural works, which we have 4 sculptures in here, which is Pradosh Das Gupta, Shankho Chaudhary, that's to get in that representation also, and move along in the Voice of South. We have works by Lakshma Gaud, a fantastic early graphite work of his. So it kind of gives you an abridged version in like half an hour. And also the idea is that even if there's nobody here to give a walkthrough, if you read the captions, it will tell you that early, this is what was happening, this is what was happening in the 40s, this is what was happening later on, and the captions have a little note around an 80-100 word short note about the artist's work.
That's quite a bit. Yes.
Which gives you a clue into it. If you want, you can then read more.
Yes.
Look at the books which are lying around. So the idea of the walkthrough is to pick up like say 5 or 10 works. And just talk about it and then take questions as we go along. I always want people to question, because then I know exactly.
Yes, and it leads to more.
Yes.
And if you were to pick a few of your all-time,
that's the worst question.
I know.
Because every time it changes for me.
Interesting.
Because
with time and your own growth as an artist, teacher.
I've stopped painting many years ago, so I'm not teacher, but as somebody who likes, I like
history,
to teach, and that's where my interest kind of comes up. So I would go back again to the Paratosh Sen. I would go back to Bireshwar Sen. They're absolutely gorgeous postcard size landscapes, and if I were to blow that image up and show it to you, you would say, wow, it must be a huge work, but they're actually just like a postcard size work. So that's something that's really fascinating. Then I would say Devyani Krishna, then I like, there are many, I can keep going on. I like Lakshma Gaud's work. For various reasons, Pradosh Das Gupta, something that's very strong. Himmat Shah's works that resonate at a very different level, because they are in terracotta, and the terracotta is a medium that's so fragile.
Right.
But when you look at the form, it's like strong, dominant form. So it's the contrast between the two kind of does very many interesting things.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just waiting for the show to open.
I know,
and,
I hope everybody enjoys it. And
for sure, because I think you're going to involve a lot of students, a lot of teachers, and not only from Chandigarh, but from the academies inviting from the entire region.
Absolutely.
Which is very important for us, Yamini, because in a city like Chandigarh, we hardly get a chance to see works like these, and also not only see but understand, which is very important, and especially for art students and common people as well. So anything that you'd like to end with in terms of the exhibition, or
I think it's like a one-stop. If you can spend at least an hour, it gives you a survey of the development of modernism in India, and shows you the breadth and the complexity of defining modern art in India. And at the same time, there are works, even if you're not interested in the art history, just the sheer visual treat,
yes,
you know, of seeing these works is, I mean, I've been in the art world for 2 decades and more, and yet every time that I walk into an exhibition, or even when I walk into the gallery, I'm like, oh wow, what a joy to just see these works.
And every time you would look at the same piece of art, you would, in a different, you'll get a new perspective.
Yeah. Because if there's a different work that's placed next to it, your mind starts thinking in a different manner.
In a different manner, you know? Yes. And before I end, my last question just struck me. Was it very difficult in those times to sell art? And was it a very, did these artists work only
Parul,
because...
it's always difficult to sell art.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean,
but I feel contemporary artists are paid much more than, no?
I mean, that's the market question, but you know, back then it was difficult in terms of the infrastructure that was available to the artist. So the artist had to kind of find various ways, means, and they became very, you know, they had to make way, you know, into the entire thing and create a market when none existed. And I don't think it was even with the intention of creating a market, but it was just kind of reaching out and making sure that they could survive as an artist while they were doing what they wanted to do. I think for the past, you know, 30 odd years, I would say that the infrastructure is available in terms of, you know, private galleries, or even, you know, the Lalit Kala spaces all over the country, which kind of allow for these engagements to happen, allows for artists to come and show their works. The institutional support, I think, needs to be far more better in terms of how they support not only the artists, but also, you know, general art education that is so sorely required.
Absolutely.
In terms of, yes, we do always read, you know, these reports of these phenomenal prizes that are achieved at auctions, but these are one-offs.
Right.
You know, you still need a large base of people who engage in art, you know, who talk about it. Where is the media talking about art?
No.
When I was growing up, at least I had that one day in the week where you would, you know, you get critical reviews, and they were critical reviews.
There are no art reviews now.
There are no art
no theatre reviews, no art
Nothing.
reviews.
Nothing happens.
No.
So where do you think that engagement is going to come from? And that's the lacunae. And you know, we keep going in circles saying that, Acha, but this is not there, that is not there. I think we just need to pick ourselves up and do the best that we can.
And see art and appreciate it, and go to galleries.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It was absolutely wonderful to speak to you.
Thank you, Parul. I enjoyed being over here.
Thank you very much. That was Yamini for us, and we hope to continue this association with DAG, the Academy and DAG. So till the next show.